Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon GO raid guide video, and today we're going to be covering the legendary Pokemon Xerneas. Yeah, Xerneas is once again in 5-star raids, and in my opinion, this is one of those legendary raids you absolutely should not skip. And there's a variety of different reasons for that. First and foremost, Xerneas is a top tier fairy type raid attacker, which means it's going to be really strong against a variety of legendary Pokemon. And then on top of that, it is also a staple Pokemon for the Master League. And currently, we are on the verge of a brand new season, and you will want to be best prepared for the Open Master League. And that is going to be possible if you get yourself a 100% IV Xerneas. Now, something you need to keep in mind is that Xerneas is a pure fairy type, which means the counters to this raid boss are going to be very much straightforward. I'll get more into that later, but first, let's go over all of the general info for how you could take down Xerneas. Alright, so just as I mentioned, Xerneas is going to be a pure fairy type legendary Pokemon, which means it's only going to have two weaknesses, which is going to be steel type and poison type attacks. Fortunately, there's a lot of really good steel types that deal an incredible amount of damage, so Xerneas is going to be much easier compared to other legendary raid bosses. But something you have to keep in mind is that Xerneas is going to be resistant to dragon type attacks, as well as bug type, dark type, and fighting type attacks. So don't bring any Pokemon with those moves because they're going to deal very little damage against Xerneas. Now, one thing about Xerneas is that it is highly valuable as a 100% IV Pokemon. So if you're looking for those perfect IVs, then the magic number is going to be 2160. And if it's weather boosted, that number is going to be 2701. And then, just so you know, Xerneas is going to be weather boosted by cloudy weather. So if it is cloudy outside, then you should definitely go out and raid as many Xerneas as you possibly can, in hopes of getting yourself a weather boosted one. Now, defeating Xerneas is not going to be that difficult. You can do it securely with 5 trainers that have Pokemon that are at least level 35. But if you want to challenge yourself, yes, you can duo Xerneas raids with just one other trainer. Just make sure both of you are at least level 40 with all of your Pokemon at least level 40, and you're bringing the absolute best counters. Speaking of which, let's go over the best counters right now. The current best counter against Xerneas was just released into Pokemon GO, and that is of course going to be Dawnwing's Necrozma. If you have a really good one in your arsenal, then you should definitely use it for this raid boss. And if you have yourself a good Necrozma, but it is currently Duskwing, then make sure you unfuse it and fuse it with a Solgaleo so that you can use a Dawnwing's Necrozma. Now, the second best counter is going to be Shadow Metagross, but that is going to be an incredibly difficult Pokemon to use, considering that it is very expensive to power up, and getting yourself a Shadow Beldum with high IVs is going to be really difficult. But you could also go with regular Metagross with Bullet Punch and Meteor Mash. We just had Beldum Community Day Classic, so this will be a great way for you to test out your best Metagrosses that you just got. And then, in terms of Mega Evolutions, you could go with Mega Gengar, but make sure you're bringing Poison type attacks. And then finally, another really good counter is going to be Nihilego, and that is mainly because it is currently a top tier Poison type raid attacker. Now, let's say you do not have any good Shadows or Legendaries in your collection, you could just go with regular Metagrosses, but also Roserade with Poison type attacks, as well as Excadrill with Steel type attacks are all going to suffice. But really, the best rule of thumb for Xerneas raids is that you should bring your absolute best steel types. As long as you have a full team of high level steel types, you're going to be good to go up against this raid boss. And like I said, we've had a lot of really good steel types get released very recently, so this is definitely going to be one of those raid bosses where you could test your mettle for all the Pokemon that you just recently caught. So yeah, very easy. Just make sure you bring your absolute best steel types and you will have no problem taking down this raid boss. Now, like I said at the top of this video, this is a very important raid boss specifically for the Master League, as well as with raid battles where the raid boss is going to be weak against fairy type attacks. Xerneas is going to be top tier when it comes to fairy types, and on top of that, when it comes to PvP, it is second to none within the Master League. There's some that are going to argue that Zacian is going to be a much better fairy type, but in my opinion, I feel like Xerneas has a lot more uses and a lot more utility. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that makes Xerneas so good for the Master League is the fast attack Geomancy, but that is actually a legacy move. So if you end up getting yourself a 100% IV Xerneas this time around, you may need to use an elite fast TM in order to get Geomancy on that Pokemon. Once you do that, then that Xerneas is going to be top tier for the Master League. But unfortunately, this time it's not going to be one of the moves that you could potentially get. Seriously, when it comes to the Master League, I'm really fortunate to have myself a 98% Xerneas because after I maxed it out, it was giving me a whole bunch of wins within the Master League. And I do predict that within the next coming season, it is going to be equally as good as it was in previous seasons. And I do think that for anyone who has themselves a high IV Xerneas, they definitely need to prioritize getting it maxed out. And then of course, Xerneas is a super easy raid boss, so it doesn't require a whole bunch of trainers. So if you want to farm up for Rare Candy XL, this is a really good boss for you to do that. And then also, you have to keep in mind that the shiny form is available, and that is definitely a shiny that a lot of players ask for when it comes to lucky trades. So having a bunch of them stocked up, even if you do not PvP, is definitely going to do a lot for your account, because anytime there is a lucky trade, it is one that you can offer to get something that you absolutely want. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more upsides to downsides to farming up Xerneas. It is definitely a raid boss you should not skip, especially because recently we haven't been getting a lot of good raid bosses when it comes to 5-star raids. So you should definitely take full advantage at raiding Xerneas. It's definitely going to be one of those raid bosses that's going to draw a lot of raiders, and it's going to be really easy for you to take down. But yeah, with that said, that's going to be it for this raid guide video. Let me know your thoughts regarding Xerneas down below. Is this a raid boss that you plan to farm up? And are you currently using a Xerneas within the Go Battle League? I would really like to know what you're doing with Xerneas. And yeah, let's have a great discussion in the comments. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the content of the channel, the absolute best way you could do so is by joining my Patreon. And if you become a paid Patreon member, you get a permanent spot on my in-game Pokemon Go friends list. So when it comes to remote raids in the friendship system, if you want to play Pokemon Go together, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a different way, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And with that said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.